document, packer, paragraph, text run, table, table row, table cell, alignment type, heading level, border style, width type, shading type, level format, page number, page break equals require, docs. Const fs equals require, fs. Const cell border equals style, border style dot single size. 1 color, cccccc. Const cell borders equals top, cell border, bottom, cell border left, cell border right, cell border. Function title para, text size color bold equals true, align equals alignment type dot center, spacing equals before, 0 after, 160. Return new paragraph, or alignment, align spacing children, new text run, text bold size font Georgia, color. Function hook box text, return new table with size, 9360 type, width type dot dxa, column widths, 9360, rows, new table row, children, new table cell, borders, top, style, border style dot thick size, 6 color, C0392B, bottom, style, border style dot thick size, 6 color, C0392B, left, style, border style dot thick size, 16 color, C0392B, right, style, border style dot thick size, 6 color, C0392B, shading, fill, FDF2F2, type, shading type dot clear, margins, top, 160 bottom, 160 left, 240 right, 240, children, new paragraph, children, new text run, text, \UD83C \UDFAF hook, bold, true size, 20 font, Arial, color, C0392B. New paragraph, a spacing, before, 80 after, 0, children, new text run, text bold, true size, 26 font, Georgia, color, 1A1A1A, italics, true. Function transition line text, return new paragraph, or alignment, alignment type dot center spacing, before, 160 after, 160, children, new text run, text bold, true size, 22 font, Georgia, color, 7D6608, italics, true. Function spacer, SE equals 120, return new paragraph, spacing, before, SE after, SE, children, new text run, function correction row, original, corrected, return new table row, children, new table cell, borders, cell borders, shading, fill, deck, type, shading type dot clear, margins, top, 80 bottom, 80 left, 140 right, 140, width, size, 4320 type, width type dot dxa, children, new paragraph, children, new text run, text, original size, 20 font, Arial, color, 922b21, new table cell, borders, cell borders, shading, fill, EF4EC, type, shading type dot clear, margins, top, 80 bottom, 80 left, 140 right, 140, width, size, 5040 type, width type dot dxa, children, new paragraph, children, new text run, text, corrected size, 20 font, Arial, color, 1E8449, bold, true. Function correction table rows, return new table with, size, 9360 type, width type dot dxa, column widths, 4320, 5040, rows, new table row, children, new table cell, borders, cell borders, shading, fill, 1A5276, type, shading type dot clear, margins, top, 80 bottom, 80 left, 140 right, 140, width, size, 4320 type, width type dot dxa, children, new paragraph, children, new text run, text, \U274C original claim, bold, true size, 21 font, Arial, color, FFFFFF, new table cell, borders, cell borders, shading, fill, 1A5276, type, shading type dot clear, margins, top, 80 bottom, 80 left, 140 right, 140, width, size, 5040 type, width type dot dxa, children, new paragraph, children, New text run, text, \U2705 scientifically corrected, bold, true size, 21 font, Arial, color, FFFFFF. Rows.map R equals correction row R, 0, R, 1. Const doc equals new document, numbering, config, reference, bullets, levels, level, 0 format, level format dot bullet text, \U2022, alignment. Alignment type dot left style, paragraph, indent, left, 720 hanging 360, styles, default, document, run, font, Georgia, size, 23, paragraph styles, ID heading 1, name heading 1, based on normal, next, normal, quick format, true run, size 32 bold, true font, Arial, paragraph, spacing, before 300 after, 160, outline level, 0, sections, properties, page, size, width, 12240 height, 15,840, margin, top, 1440 right, 1440 bottom, 1440 left, 1440, children, // spacer, 200, title para the secret language, 52, 1A 2746, true alignment type dot center, before, 0 after, 80, title para of your dog, 52, C0392B, true alignment type dot center, before, 0 after, 200, title para, what science actually says about canine behavior, 24, 555555, false alignment type dot center, before, 0 after, 60, title para, and why everything you think you know might be wrong, 24, 555555, false, alignment type dot center, before, 0 after, 400. New paragraph, or alignment type dot center, spacing, before, 0 after 80, border, top, style, border style dot single size for color, CCCCCC, space, 1, children, new text run, text, a science-based script approximate 2,000 words, size, 20 font, Arial, color, AIA, italics, true, spacer, 300, // hookbox, you think you know your dog. You don't. Not even close. Spacer, 160, script body, close your eyes and picture your morning walk. Your dog yanks the leash. Sniffs a lamppost for 45 seconds. Freezes at a stranger across the street. You pull. You say, no. You wonder why they never just behave. Script body, here's the uncomfortable truth. In almost every one of those moments, your dog was communicating something precise and scientifically measurable, and you missed it entirely. Not because you're a bad owner, but because nobody ever taught you to read the actual language your dog is speaking. Script body, by the end of this, that changes. We're going deep into the neuroscience, the hormones, the behavior patterns that researchers have spent decades uncovering, and we're going to translate all of it into something you can use on your very next walk. Stay with me. Spacer, 200, / section 1 / section label, 01, olfactory processing. The nose knows everything. Spacer, 120, hookbox, your dog isn't sniffing that fire hydrant. They're reading a novel. Spacer, 140, script body, let's start with the most misunderstood thing your dog does every single day, sniffing. You see it as distraction. Scientists see it as one of the most sophisticated information gathering systems in the entire animal kingdom. Script body, here's what's actually happening inside that nose. Humans have approximately 6 million olfactory receptors. Your dog has up to 300 million. But raw numbers barely scratch the surface. The real story is in the brain. Science note, science fact, the olfactory bulb, the brain region dedicated to processing smell, occupies proportionally 40x more neural tissue in dogs relative to their brain size compared to humans. Olfactory biology, applied animal cognition. Spacer, 120, script body, that 40x figure is not about the size of the nose. It's about neural real estate, how much of the brain's total processing power is committed to analyzing scent information. In human terms, imagine if nearly half your brain did nothing but interpret what your eyes see. That's your dog's nose. Script body, the olfactory epithelium, the scent-detecting lining inside the nasal cavity, is also dramatically more expansive in dogs than in any macrosmatic species we've domesticated. When your dog stops to sniff a patch of grass, they are detecting the hormonal profile, emotional state, diet, health status, and recent history of every animal that passed through. In a single inhale. Transition line, so the next time your dog wastes time sniffing, remember, they're not wasting time. They're working harder than you are. Spacer, 160. Correction table, 40x more powerful nose, 40x more neural tissue dedicated to smell processing in the olfactory bulb, a brain-based measurement, not a nose size claim. Spacer, 200. Section label, 02. Cognitive evaluation. Can we measure how a dog feels? Spacer, 120. Hookbox. Scientists have built a test to measure whether your dog is an optimist or a pessimist. The results will surprise you. Spacer, 140. Script body. For decades, the emotional inner life of animals was dismissed as unscientific. You couldn't measure feelings. You could only observe behavior. Then in 2010, a landmark paper changed everything. Script body. Researchers Mendel, Berman, Parker, and Paul published a framework now known as the judgment bias task. The core idea is elegant. If an animal has a positive underlying emotional state, they will respond to ambiguous, uncertain stimuli with optimism, approaching it, engaging with it. If their affective state is negative, they'll avoid the same stimulus, treating ambiguity as a threat. Science note, research, Mendel et al., 2010. Judgment bias task measures responses to ambiguous stimuli to gauge underlying emotional states. Published in Current Biology. This is the gold standard framework for cognitive bias research in non-human animals. Spacer, 120. Script body. In practice, a dog is trained that a bowl placed in one location always contains food, and a bowl in another location is always empty. Then researchers introduce an ambiguous location, somewhere in the middle. A dog with a positive affective state runs toward it. A dog in a negative affective state hesitates or avoids it entirely. Script body. This is not about optimism in a human sense. It's about measurable cognitive bias, how the brain's emotional baseline physically changes the way it processes uncertain information. And this matters for you because the enrichment you provide or fail to provide directly shifts that baseline. Extended sniffing opportunities, research has shown, push that needle toward the positive. Transition line. Your dog's emotional state isn't just a feeling. It's a measurable, trainable biological reality. Spacer, 160. Correction table. Measuring how optimistic a dog is. Cognitive bias test / judgment bias task. Mendel et al., 2010. Measures affective state through responses to ambiguous stimuli. Spacer, 200. Section label, 03. Stress and arousal scaling. Reading the emotional thermometer. Spacer, 120. Hookbox. When your dog hits the door at full speed before a walk, they're not excited. They're cognitively offline. Spacer, 140. Script body. Here's a concept that transforms how you read your dog. Physiological arousal threshold. Every dog has a baseline, a normal calm state from which they operate. Push them above that threshold through excitement, fear, or overstimulation, and something predictable happens. Higher brain functions go quiet. Script body, the limbic system, the brain's emotional processing center, takes over. The prefrontal equivalent regions that handle learning, decision-making, and impulse control become significantly less active. Your dog is no longer able to process commands or read social cues the way they normally would. They are, in the most literal neurological sense, running on instinct. Science note, science fact. Research in canine cognitive science consistently shows that dogs in high arousal states demonstrate significantly reduced responsiveness to trained commands, not due to disobedience, but due to measurable neurological shifts in processing priority. Physiological arousal, threshold biology. Spacer, 120. Script body. Now, trainers often use approximate scales to illustrate this, describing a frantic dog at the door as being at roughly 8 out of 10 on an arousal scale, and a calm walk-ready dog as being closer to 3. It's important to understand what these numbers are and what they are not. Script body. They are illustrative observations, useful shorthand for describing behavioral states. They are not standardized metrics from a laboratory. There is no universal blood test that reads 8.0 arousal units. The value in the scale is the concept it communicates. The further above their individual threshold a dog goes, the less accessible their trained behaviors become. The numbers help owners visualize the spectrum. The science confirms the spectrum is real. Transition line, start the walk calm. Everything that follows becomes possible. Start it frantic, and you're fighting biology for the next 20 minutes. Spacer, 160. Correction table, fixed numbers like 8/10 arousal presented as scientific data, illustrative scale for observational guidance, not a standardized metric. Individual baselines vary by temperament, breed, and history. Spacer, 200. Section label, 04, mental versus physical exhaustion, the enrichment equation. Spacer, 120. Hook box, a 10-minute sniff session does something to your dog's brain that a 30-minute run simply cannot replicate, for many dogs. Spacer, 140. Script body, this is one of the most counterintuitive findings in modern canine behavioral science, and it comes down to understanding what actually tires a brain versus what tires a body. Physical exercise, running, fetching, chasing, primarily depletes muscular energy and elevates cardiovascular output. It is necessary. It is beneficial. But it addresses only one dimension of a dog's needs. Script body, scent work, structured sniffing, foraging behavior, olfactory exploration, engages the brain in a fundamentally different way. It requires active cognitive processing, memory access, environmental mapping, and sustained attention. The neural cost of this work is substantial. Research measuring heart rate variability, cortisol levels, and post-activity rest behavior has consistently found that cognitively demanding activities produce greater overall fatigue than equivalent duration physical exercise alone. Science note, research, studies on foraging behavior, heart rate variability, HRV, and behavioral enrichment indicate that sniffing lowers heart rate and activates high-level olfactory processing, producing mental fatigue that complements physical exhaustion. Breed physiology affects degree of impact significantly. Spacer, 120. Script body, the critical qualifier, and the one most often lost in simplified summaries, is breed dependency. A border collie bred for sustained high-intensity mental and physical work has vastly different exhaustion thresholds than a pug, whose physiology limits both olfactory capacity and aerobic endurance. A 10-minute sniff session may genuinely meet the enrichment needs of a lower drive breed while barely touching the surface for a working dog. Script body, the accurate statement is this. For many dogs, particularly those of moderate to low physical drive, structured sniff time provides a level of mental enrichment and resulting fatigue that can rival or exceed the effect of longer duration, lower engagement physical exercise. It is a tool, a powerful one, not a universal replacement. Transition line, give your dog's brain a workout. The body will follow. But know your dog's breed before you write the prescription. Spacer, 160. Correction table, 10 minutes sniffing is better than 30 minutes running universal. Provides high mental enrichment and can rival physical exercise in fatigue, but exhaustion levels are breed dependent and non-universal. Spacer, 200. Section label, 05. Endocrine response, the stress hormone your dog is drowning in. Spacer, 120. Hook box, every time your dog lunges at another dog on leash, a precise hormonal sequence fires inside their body, and the leash in your hand is making it worse. Spacer, 140. Script body, when a dog perceives a threat, a strange dog, a sudden noise, an unfamiliar person moving too fast, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis activates. The HPA axis is the body's central stress response system, a cascade of hormonal signals that begins in the brain and ends with a measurable surge of cortisol into the bloodstream. Script body, cortisol in this context, is not a villain. It is a survival mechanism. It sharpens threat detection, redirects blood flow to muscles, and raises alertness. The problem arises when that acute cortisol spike cannot resolve, when the perceived threat doesn't pass, when the environment keeps triggering the response, when the owner's own tension travels down the leash and tells the dog, yes, there is something to be afraid of. Science note, science fact, stress activates the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, producing an acute cortisol spike. Sustained activation disrupts homeostasis, impairing immune function, digestion, and cognitive processing. Cortisol flood is non-technical. Cortisol spike, or cortisol surge, is the accurate clinical term. Spacer, 120. Script body, research published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior has demonstrated a direct relationship between leash tension and the duration and intensity of reactive episodes. A tight leash doesn't just restrain your dog, it communicates danger. The physical tension travels neurologically and reinforces the threat detection system's assessment. Something is wrong. Tighten. Alert. React. Script body, the intervention. Threshold awareness. Every dog has a distance at which a trigger becomes manageable. Some dogs at 5 meters, others at 50. Below that distance, the cortisol spike is already firing. Above it, the dog can still think. Your job on a reactive walk is to keep your dog above their threshold, maintain leash slack, and interrupt the pattern before the hormonal cascade takes hold. One calm, redirected moment below threshold teaches more than 100 corrections after the spike has already fired. Transition line. The leash is a communication line. What are you telling your dog right now? Spacer, 160. Correction table. Cortisol flood in the brain. Acute cortisol spike/surge via HPA axis activation. Clinically accurate terminology for the stress hormone response. Spacer, 200. Section label, 06. Attribution and evidence, saying what the science actually says. Spacer, 120. Hookbox. The most dangerous phrase in dog training is, studies show, especially when they don't. Spacer, 140. Script body. Science communication has a credibility problem. And nowhere is it more visible than in the dog training world, where specific study citations get attached to general findings, specific years get assigned to broad research traditions, and confident numbers get presented in place of honest ranges. Script body. The University of Lincoln's Animal Behavior and Cognition Research Group, associated extensively with Professor Daniel Mills, has produced some of the most important peer-reviewed work in canine behavioral science. Their findings on separation anxiety, cognitive bias, stress indicators, and human-dog attachment are genuinely landmark. But citing Lincoln 2019, as if it is a single definitive paper for a broad behavioral claim is not how science works. And in a world where audiences increasingly fact-check what they consume, it is a credibility risk. Science note, academic standard, scientific consensus emerges from multiple peer-reviewed studies across independent research groups. Hedging language, research suggests, evidence indicates, studies have found, is not weakness. It is accuracy. It is how real science communicates real findings. Spacer, 120. Script body. The shift from Lincoln 2019 says to evidence-based research suggests is not a retreat. It's an upgrade. It accurately represents how scientific knowledge actually accumulates, not from single papers, but from converging evidence across multiple studies, methodologies, and research groups. It also protects your credibility when a viewer looks up the original claim. Script body. Every single scientific fact in this script, the olfactory bulb's neural proportion, the judgment bias task, cortisol's role in the HPA axis, the relationship between leash tension and reactivity, is supported by peer-reviewed, published research. You don't need to overclaim. The actual science is remarkable enough. Let it speak for itself accurately. Transition line. Trust the evidence. Hedge when appropriate. The science is strong enough to stand on its own. Spacer, 160. Correction table. University of Lincoln 2019 says, research suggests, / evidence-based consensus indicates, hedging language for academic safety and factual accuracy. Spacer, 240, / closing / hookbox. You don't need to be a neuroscientist to understand your dog. You just need to know where to look. Spacer, 160, script body. Let's bring it all together. Your dog navigates the world through a nose that outperforms yours by a neurological factor of 40. They carry an emotional state that scientists can now measure and influence. Their ability to listen to you is directly tied to their arousal level, a biological reality, not a personality flaw. Their need for mental enrichment is as real and as urgent as their need for physical exercise. Their stress responses follow a precise hormonal pathway that your leash, your posture, and your timing can either escalate or interrupt. Script body. None of this is mystical. None of it requires expensive equipment or years of training. It requires attention, curiosity, and a willingness to stop seeing your dog's behavior as random, and start reading it for exactly what it is: precise, consistent, and deeply scientifically explainable. Script body. That lamppost your dog stopped at this morning? That was a data download. That freeze before the stranger? Threshold awareness in action. That chaos at the door before the walk? Cortisol and limbic override, solvable in 3 seconds of patient stillness. New paragraph, alignment type. Center, spacing. Before, 280 after, 160, children. New text run. Text. Your dog has been speaking this whole time. bold, true size 30 font, Georgia, color, 1A2746, italics, true. New paragraph, or alignment type dot center spacing. Before, 0 after, 320, children, new text run, text. Now you know the language. Bold, true size 30 font, Georgia, color, C0392B, italics, true, spacer, 200. New paragraph, or alignment type dot center spacing. Before, 0 after, 80, children, new text run, text, master correction summary, bold, true size, 28 font, Arial, color, 1A2746. New paragraph, or alignment type dot center spacing. Before, 0 after, 200, children, new text run, text. All 6 scientific corrections at a glance, size, 21 font, Arial, color, 888888, italics, true, new. Table, a width, a size, 9360 type, width type.dxa, column widths, 2200, 1200, 2400, 3560, rows, new table row, children, item, status, verified fact, correction / note, dot map, hi, equals new table cell, borders, cell borders shading, fill, 1A2746, type, shading type dot clear, margins, top, 80 bottom, 80 left, 120 right, 120, width, a size, 2200, 1200, 2400, 3560, I, type, width type dot dxa, children, new paragraph, children, new text run, text, H bold, true size, 20 font, Arial, color, FFFFFF, smell anatomy, /U2705 verified, 40x more neural tissue, olfactory bulb, not nose size, its brain processing proportion, cognitive testing, /U2705 verified, judgment bias task, Mendel et al. 2010, measures affective state via ambiguous stimuli response, arousal, scale, /U26A0 /UFE0F corrected, illustrative observational scale, not a standardized metric, varies by individual dog, sniffing value, /U26A0 /UFE0F corrected, breed-dependent mental enrichment, can rival physical exercise, not universal for all breeds, hormonal change, /U2705 verified, cortisol spike via HPA axis, medical accuracy, spike/surge replaces non-clinical, flood, citations, /U2705 verified, hedging language used. Throughout, research suggests protects credibility and reflects consensus. Map, row re, equals new table row, children, row.map, cell ci, equals new table cell, borders, cell borders shading, fill, re %2 equals 0, F8 F9 FA, FFFFFF, type, shading type dot clear, margins, top, 80 bottom, 80 left, 120 right, 120, width, size, 2200, 1200, 2400, 3560, ci, type, width type dot dxa, children, new paragraph, children, new text run, text, cell size, 19 font, Arial, color, ci equals 1, cell dot includes, /U2705, 1E8449, C0392B, 1C1C1C, spacer, 300, new paragraph, or alignment type dot center border, top, style, border style dot single size, 2 color, CCCCCC, space, 1, spacing, before, 120 after, 60, children, new text run, text. End of script, 2000 words, science-based canine behavior, size, 18 font, Arial, color, AIA, italics, true. Packer.to-buffer doc, .then buff equals, fs.write file sync, /mnt/user data /output/dog _behavior _engaging _script _2000 _words.docs, buff, console.log, done.